I think in the online music education business space, I'm out of touch. I think everybody's really out of touch because it's easy to spurt out advice, which works for me. And it works for me because I got 10 years behind me. I got 4,000 projects behind me. I got hundreds of millions of streams behind me. I got clients all around the world. That's not the reality for the average bedroom producer, the average hobbyist that aspires to build up their career. They don't have those resources. So when I give some advice out, that I always feel like there's a disconnect. I feel like it's good advice, it's not wrong, but there's a disconnect. And I need to go on my own journey to figure out, what is it like for the average bedroom producer, the average hobbyist mixing engineer or mastering engineer that wants to get started out. And that's the challenge I'm setting for myself. Next week, I'm starting a big challenge, 21 days to start a mastering studio. And I honestly feel like I'm setting myself up to fail. And this 21-day challenge is completely covert. Nobody will know who I am. I can't leverage my network or contacts. I can't leverage clients I've had in the past. It is purely no name attached, no portfolio attached, raw, from scratch. I think if I go through this experience and I learn a few things along the way, I'll be able to help you guys better because, that's like of high importance. That's really up on the top of the list for me because as time goes on, we need as much talent as we can in this industry because talent buys opportunity for better creative in terms of, getting to work with cooler producers that are actually making something out of their careers and getting to hear better music. And that's just a net benefit for everybody involved in the industry and everybody outside of the industry who are just listeners as well. So I hope this challenge teaches me, as much as I want to succeed at this challenge in terms of turning a profit and showing you guys how it's done, that might not happen. But if I fail, I want it to expose light on some lessons that we can learn along the way together. So yeah, let's see how this goes. See you guys next week. So I shot that last week. This week, a week into the challenge, guess what? I've quit. And before I get into any of the details, probably the most valuable thing you can learn from watching this video is to ignore all the business advice on YouTube. Because here's the reality. When you're starting out from scratch, your productivity systems count for shit. Your CRM you use counts for shit. How your website is laid out counts for shit. I don't care what anybody says. It's all fucking useless, okay? They're all simple things that you can do on your own, which feeds your ego, makes you feel like you're doing something constructive, but in reality is absolute bullshit. Like that was the first thing I did when I set up on the first day of the challenge. I created my what do you call it? What the fuck is it called? Man, I can't remember. Not PayPal, the other one. I didn't use PayPal because PayPal I use for this business. Stripe. I made a Stripe account. I had a logo done with some AI. Spent $25 whole there. Ooh. And, so I had a fancy logo and my Stripe account. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Now I can accept payments. I got a logo. Who gives a shit? Because guess what? There are no clients coming in. And for a week, there's been no clients coming in to this business. And it's not for the lack of anything other than the fact that all those things which make you feel good at the start when you're getting started, a logo, a website, your productivity system, your emails and how you organize them and whatnot, that's all bullshit, this business advice. What the reality was when I started looking for clients for this business, or even scoping out for spec work, you feel isolated because you don't have any work behind you when you're starting out in terms of a big portfolio. You don't have many connections behind you to make these introductions. So I'm starting a business, this is day 1, day 2, and I've got, as in this was what day 1, day 2 I'm talking about, and I've got no connections, no folio, and I'm trying to reach out to artists who are doing incredible work, and you don't want to, like they're kicking ass, and you just feel so helpless to reach out and be like, hey, I really love your work. You're doing some great stuff. Tell me more about what you're doing. I'm starting out this business and I'd love to do some spec work for you. And I think I could really do something special. You feel helpless writing that message. It sounds good on paper, but the reality is it counts for shit because when people look you up, they don't see anything. It's almost like you're invisible when you're starting out. And yeah, so yeah, that's a really hard thing to navigate. And I feel for people who are starting out trying to navigate that. And it's easy for me to go, oh, if you want to be visible, get on Instagram, get on social media. share some cool posts, go on YouTube. But the reality is, you're a nobody to many people when you're starting out, and that's not really the answer. The answer, I think this is the answer, and this is the first positive takeaway I can take from this experience, is that the way I currently connect with people is through my network. So if there's somebody I want to connect with, there's a cool artist, a cool engineer, cool producer, I find a mutual friend. I've got so many of them that I just go, hey, do you know so-and-so? Do you mind making connect? It makes it super easy. And the reason why it makes it super easy is because all my connections I have good relationships with that is based around what we're passionate about, which is audio music. So if you're starting out, that's where I would look towards. And you can't do that in 21 days. That takes a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes with certain people to build up that rapport. But if you're super passionate about something, connect with that community. Okay, so if you're a hip hop beat maker, find every other beat maker on Instagram and YouTube that you really vibe with. That sorry, that's something that you really connect with, and reach out to them just out of mutual appreciation and build up slowly from there. That would be the first thing you could take away from that. Sorry, that's my cup just rattling on the table. That'd be the first thing you could do to start building up those connections and potentially getting in ways connecting with other artists and other people that you can actually do business with. There's the other thing, starting out from scratch, there's no proof of concept. Folio was at 0 tracks day 1, and Folio was at 0 tracks day 7 today. I've got no proof of concept. I can't use the tracks from my studio here because this is a COVID operation. You know, that's disingenuous. I want to make sure that any stuff in my Folio is stuff that I've been able to grow from scratch in my business. I couldn't land anything. It was really impossible. And that made it difficult. And thing is, like, you reach out, hey, do you want to do some spec work, etc., etc. Why is somebody going to take a bet on you? You know, unless you actually have a relationship with them or somebody else can vouch for you, it's really hard. Now, the thing is, getting somebody to pay you thereafter is even more difficult unless you have a huge Folio behind you. By huge, I mean your first 30. If I was going to continue doing this for a year, which I think is a much more reasonable time frame than 21 days, if I was going to do this for a year, I would say that I would do my first 30 to 50 tracks on spec. So no money exchange in the table, just, hey, I'm going to do this work for you. If you like it, you can always take care of me, or next time we work together, we can sort something out. But I would aim at building a good quality big portfolio of commercially released work. So work that is out on Spotify and Apple, not stuff that's already released, not stems you get off a shady website, but legitimate releases. And the third thing, and this is where I'm going to cut myself down a little bit in size, is that it takes time. And for anybody to think that 21 days is appropriate is just stupid, arrogant, and egotistical. And that's how I came into this exercise. It was like, oh yeah, fuck, I do this every day. Look at what I built here. I can do this in 21 days from scratch. Reality is, it's fucking hard starting out. And 21 days isn't enough. A year is barely enough just to get a little bit of air underneath your sails. This is something that takes long. It is a long time journey you're always growing with. To build a business, especially around music production and mastering, the idea 21 days, or the idea that you see a YouTube channel and they're like, oh, you know, you can make $10,000 in a month making music production beats. It's absolute bullshit. Yeah, somebody can do that, but doing that from scratch or watching a video and expecting to be able to just next day turn a buck, absolute bullshit. Takes a long time. So that's the third takeaway. It does take time, and that's a positive takeaway because it's how do I put it? It adds a time scale to everything you do. So you don't have to feel like, especially if you're starting out, you should not feel, what's the word? Disenchanted? I don't know if that's a fucking word, enchanted. No. You know the word. Like unmotivated. You shouldn't feel unmotivated. Maybe that's a better word. You shouldn't feel unmotivated if you're just getting started out. You're a month, 2 months in, and not much is moving. You're grafting hard, you're getting a little bit of nibbles, but nothing's really moving. It's okay. You're only a couple months in. I was 7 days in and I'm like, fuck this. But in all honesty, it'll take a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get the ball rolling for something to start happening genuinely. So those are my thoughts on all of this. It was a really weird experience. And I thought this was going to be such a cooler video with all this B-roll and cool things happening and messages going back and forth and breakthroughs. But the reality is, it's like, that's That's just not how starting a mastering business from scratch happens. I will eat my words and throw praise to anybody on YouTube who can in 21 days do it. Because, full respect to that. But I did set myself a really high bar on this. 21 days, completely covert, can't use my name, can't use my folio, can't use my contacts, build it from scratch. I failed, and that's okay. But until next time, take care.